You're listening to Permission To, the podcast where we dive into the science and soul of owning your worthiness as a perfectly imperfect human being. I'm your host, Sam Dew, psychotherapist, positive psychology coach, mama to a beautiful 5-year-old Amelie, and passionate advocate for living an inspired life. My aim is to show you that you have full permission to own your worthiness so that you can embrace your true nature and begin walking boldly toward your dreams. Let's dive in. Hi everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Permission To. I am just wrapping up my first launch. Well, the first time that I've launched with a newborn baby. So I'm just wrapping up the launch of Permission Granted. Obviously, I've done many launches before this, but this is the first time I've launched with a bubba. And yeah, my heart is feeling really full. My energy feels great. And I'm feeling really, really grateful for everything that's happened over the last couple of weeks. And so I'm doing this bonus episode today because the biggest question that has been asked of me over the last couple of weeks is, how on earth are you launching whilst you have an 8-week-old? Because my baby Frankie is now 8 weeks old, or just turned 2 months old actually. So I thought that it would be a really great chance to be super honest with you guys about how the launch has gone, what the payoffs have been, what support I've had, and what it's looked like. So that's what I'm going to be sharing today. And I love that you guys ask me these questions and that I can respond to your questions but with a podcast episode. So if there's ever anything that you're curious about in my life or my business, feel free to send me a DM. And if I'm okay with it, I will do an episode. So today we're going to share how I've actually had my biggest launch yet. I can't believe that I'm saying that out loud, but it's actually been the biggest launch I've ever had with a newborn bub. I'm going to share the strategies I used and the trade-offs and support I had and how I've been super intentional through this launch. And it's just going to be a good chat. Like, there's not going to be lots of strategies here, but there might be some lessons. And I just want to encourage women to be more honest in our conversations about the support that we have, because what I notice is that it's super hard for mums and women in general not to compare themselves. So you'll see someone who's a mum in business and they're doing all this amazing stuff in their business and you think, oh my God, how are they doing it all? How come they can do that and I can't do this? But then if you go and ask them how they're going and what support they've got, quite often you'll find out that they've got amazing support. Maybe their partner, has a super flexible job or works from home, or they've got a grandparent that can help out. Or like me, we've hired a nanny to help out. So I just feel we need to start being more honest about that, about how much support it actually takes to kind of thrive in life and business. And how much support that we all need and receive, and just to stop that whole comparison trap of thinking that someone else is doing an amazing job and you're not, when probably they just have more support than you, or they have systems in place. No one here is a superhero. So look, I think that's where I'll start then if we dive in. So I have had the biggest launch yet, and I've done that with Frankie home with me full time. But the thing is, I have had a lot of support, and there's a lot that I haven't done since Frankie was born. So for starters, we have a beautiful, she's a kind of a nanny, a home helper, personal assistant. She kind of helps with whatever I need help with. So obviously, because Frankie's a baby at the moment, she, touch wood, still sleeps quite a lot. So Anne actually helps us around the house a lot. I haven't cooked a meal since Frankie was born. The beautiful school mums at our school community set up a meal train for us. So we're getting 2 meals a week for the first month, I think, of school term. And my family helped out a lot with meals over summer, and friends dropped off things. So like, and then Nick does a lot of the cooking anyway. I don't really cook much in general, but like, I think it's important to be honest about, well, this is what I've done. I've done a launch with a newborn, but this is what I haven't done. I haven't been focusing on cleaning the house. I've had lots of help with that because of Anne coming round. And I haven't been cooking. I've had like beautiful people making me nourishing meals. So the reason that I have been able to launch and take care of me and really focus on my community and calling in the most beautiful women into Permission Granted, whilst also, feeling super connected and spending lots of beautiful time with Frankie, is because of all the things I haven't done. So that's the first thing to know about how this launch went, that I've had a lot of support. And so Anne comes 2 days a week, and I think it's around 10 hours a week. And so that's the time that I use to like record podcast episodes. That's the time that I'm going to be using for Permission Granted calls. And it just feels really lovely for me to stay engaged with my business, to stay connected to the relationship I have with my business and with you all, whilst not trying to fit my business into just nap time, which I know a lot of mamas do really, really well. But I know for me, it would have been too much. And I get a bit frazzled and overwhelmed easily. I'm not good at like juggling and multitasking. I kind of need to do one thing at a time. So knowing that Anne is here for those 10 hours a week to really take care of Frankie, and I can still pop in and out and give her a breastfeed and all of those things, has just been amazing. So I'm really, really grateful for that. But I want to be honest about it so that other women, if they want to, continue their business with a newborn, that they know what that looks like for me, that I'm not like some unicorn who, just can do everything on my own and also still look after a newborn and myself. So now, in terms of the strategies I used, so one was making sure I had a ton of support. So we actually totally prepared for this launch before Frankie was born and before I went on maternity leave. So I basically went through all the content that I had for Permission Granted from my past launches. And then I got a beautiful friend and copywriter to repurpose all of the content. So she went through and got all the emails prepared, all the social media posts prepared. Yeah, I just went through, I asked my beautiful VA Marie to organize my calendar for Permission Granted, to map out the dates and the calls and to set up everything. So I just made sure that I had a whole heap of team behind me. And even, for example, one of the things I wanted to do for this launch was to release regular podcast episodes leading up to the launch. But because I ran out of time before I went on maternity leave, as many of you know, I ended up asking Lucy, who's a beautiful coach and friend and Permission Granted member, who's now going to be a mentor coach for Permission Granted this year. So I asked her to be a guest interviewer and to do some podcast episodes while I was on leave. So as you can see, my biggest strategy was to be open to receiving as much support as I needed. So it might look like, wow, Sam's done so much for this launch, but actually most of it has happened behind the scenes with the support of my team. And then all I've had to do is show up on Instagram, obviously hold the circle that I did on launch day, which was really beautiful. And yeah, just kind of connect with everybody, because I find for me with Permission Granted, I really want people to be a good fit for the experience. So I often kind of chat with them in DMs, or they'll email me questions and things like that. So that's what I have focused on. The other strategy that I have focused on is really, and I always say this for launching, not just when you've got a bub, is energy first, prioritizing my energy, making sure that I was really taking care of myself, really taking care of my nervous system, because launching can be a bit adrenaline. It's really exciting when you get that first email that someone signed up and they said yes to Permission Granted, and you get this beautiful boost of happy, excited energy. But then your body can kind of get a bit used to that and dependent on that, and you can end up on this roller coaster of like people saying yes and people saying no. And I've launched enough to know that that's not good for you, and to come at a launch from a place of like excitement and celebration. So like every time a woman says yes to Permission Granted, I just genuinely feel like so much gratitude for them, so much excitement for them. And I've kind of learnt that if it's not the right time for someone or it's not the right experience for them, that's okay as well. It's not anything personal. So with this launch, what really helped me was to go, you know what, I've got a newborn, like this is going to be a really gentle launch. So if I don't get as many people as I'd like in, that's okay. Like whoever is in, I'm going to trust that that's right, that that's the right amount of people for Permission Granted this year. And just be really honoured that I get to do what I love whilst also still being home with a newborn. So I went in with quite low expectations, which is really interesting then, because I think within the first 24 hours of the cart being open, I'd had like 4 amazing women tell me that they wanted to join Permission Granted and sign up. And also, as many of you probably know, I did pre-launch Permission Granted last year before I went on maternity leave. So that's another strategy that we kind of split the launch in two, so that I wouldn't be having the pressure of, a full launch when Frankie was a newborn. So I had already had like 8 people sign up to Permission Granted before we actually launched for this year. And that was because I did a pre-sales last year before I went on mat leave. So that was a strategy too. I didn't want to feel like all the pressure of like a whole launch from scratch, not knowing whether I'd get the numbers to get the program off the ground with a newborn. That would have felt too much. So I'm really glad that I did the pre-launch, and it was also really lovely for the women who signed up early, because I gave them some extra work to do over December, January to prepare them for Permission Granted. So I'm trying to think what other strategies. I think they were the main ones. It's mostly like seeking support and making sure that I had like an amazing support team around me, that I really worked on my mindset and my energy. Lots of swims in the ocean, lots of taking care of myself, like beautiful nourishing massages. Yeah, all these meals being delivered to us, like just shout out to any of the school mums. Thank you so much. Like very grateful for your support. And then like the weekend before doors closed, I did get a bit of a summer cold. My daughter, I think this is one thing I'm going to find challenging this year. It's like having a newborn and a 6-year-old. I can just see how the germs are going to be, spreading, and that Frankie's going to get sick a bit more than a bub that didn't have a sibling coming home from school. But yeah, so we all got a cold last week. Emily was sick on like Monday, Tuesday. She was sick actually the day that I launched. And then I got sick Friday, Saturday. But again, like I asked for what I needed. Like I asked Nick to look after Frankie and Emily so I could rest. I binge watched like the whole season 1 of Sex and the City, which felt so good. And just ate like really healthy food and taking all the supplements and everything. So like I'm just really focusing on trying to take care of myself. And I believe with launching, if you take care of you first, your energy, your mindset, your well-being, that actually makes you more magnetic, and it comes across in your energy when you're launching. So that's definitely been something that it's taken me a couple of launches to really realize. Also like being okay with repurposing, like I was going to do an Instagram TV on like the 5 reasons why women signed up to Permission Granted, and then I realized I had one from last year, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to re-share the one that I did last year. Like it's the same content, like it's okay, to make life simple. So they're the strategies I used. I want to touch a little bit on the trade-offs. As you can hear, I've still got a little bit of a tickle. Like I feel better, but when you get that tickle at the end. Yeah, so the thing is, I do believe in life, in motherhood, in business, there are always trade-offs. And what I mean by that is like we'll often have competing values, and we need to make a decision based on, which value is most important to us at the time, or looking at the bigger picture. So obviously, like my goal this year is to only work like 10 hours at the most a week in my business. And that's to only be working when Anne's here to watch Frankie, because I want to be really present with her. I know like she's my second bub and I know how quickly time's going to go. And so I don't want to look back and go, oh, I wish that I hadn't like worked so much with her. So I'm really clear that I only want to work 10 hours. But obviously last week when I was launching, I worked more than 10 hours. Like I was on social media most of the day. I was on my stories. If, you know, it wouldn't be honest with you to tell you that you can launch without being on social media. For me, that's, you know, how I connect with people. And I actually do really enjoy it. But I did notice that there was a bit of a feeling in me of, oh, like I'm not being present with Frankie and I'm spending too much time on social media. And so I wanted to be honest about that the way I see that is I see that as a trade-off for what is me holding the vision for the whole year. And my vision is that this year I don't do a lot of one-on-one work, that permission granted and my group experiences and a few other exciting things that are coming later will be my main business. What that means, like for me to get the privilege of only working 10 hours a week for this year, but maybe even for next year, like I could make my whole business work within 10 hours a week if I choose to. But to do that, the trade-off was that, I had a week where I was launching with an 8-week-old. And so, I was on social media more than what I would usually prefer to. And I didn't spend as much time with her as I usually would like. But I had support around me. So I didn't feel like she was, I knew that she was okay. So this is something that I think is really important to think about in business and in life, that sometimes we want two things that are kind of in conflict or contradiction with each other. So we need to be able to step back and look at the bigger picture of what's going to serve me for the whole year, like the fact that I might not need to even put Frankie in daycare this year and that I can run my business in 10 hours a week now and I've had this amazing launch that's going to give my family a really good boost of our income. Those things were worth that week of being in launch mode. So that was a trade-off. I'm trying to think what else I had to make decisions around. I think that's really the main thing. I guess the other one is I don't usually like to work on the weekends. I know a lot of business owners do, and I think when you're your own boss, it doesn't really matter what hours you work as long as you're choosing them and you're intentional. But I don't usually like to work on weekends, but this year, because I have a newborn and I don't want to do any evening work, any evening calls, because I know my energy is not great in the evening with a newborn. So I'm going to be doing a call once a month on a Saturday for permission granted, because there are some women in that experience that can't make the weekday calls. And that was a trade-off between, well, do I want to try and work in the evening when I, might have a baby going through witching hour and when I tend to be quite tired and flat? Or do I want to work once a month on a Saturday morning? And same with preparing for this launch. I did have to do a little bit of work on the weekends, and that wasn't something that would usually feel right for me. But in the scheme of what I was visioning for my future and for my family, it actually felt really good and really okay with it. So I guess when you're really intentional about your vision and about what's important to you and what your values are, that really allows you to navigate challenges like launching with a newborn, and to move through them in a way. Now I just feel really, really grateful, excited, proud for what I've created for my family this year in 1 week, So I think that's everything that I wanted to share with you about launching with a newborn. I will say Frankie is a very good sleeper as well, and I'm not necessarily expecting that to last forever. I don't know if it will. It probably won't. But so I think, again, I've also just gotten lucky in some ways that I've got a bubba who at the moment who's sleeping pretty well, and I'm super supported. So if there's ever something you want to do with a newborn and you really want to do it, but there are other people telling you shouldn't or you can't, take this as proof that you can, but you need to be aware of the trade-offs that you might need to make. You need to be super intentional about your values and what's most important to you and the bigger picture. And my biggest tip would be making sure that you have as much support as you can. Like, I've just had an abundance of support. If I was trying to cook the meals, do the cleaning, write all the emails, do all the content for the launch, do everything myself, I would have been a frazzled mess. But the reason I've been able to show up so confidently and calmly is because I knew that I had a team of people supporting me behind the scenes. So that's it for this bonus episode. I would love to hear, like, if you have ever thought of doing something stretchy, like launching with a newborn, or I don't know, just something that was a little bit against the norm or a little bit outside of your comfort zone. And also, if you do enjoy this podcast, and if you've ever kind of considered working with me, or you're just really curious about what it'd be like to work with me, the doors are still open to Permission Granted, but only for a couple more hours. So because we're actually we're doing our first welcome ceremony and intention setting call on Thursday. So I think you've got about 24 hours left to sign up to Permission Granted. And this is a powerful 10-month sisterhood and coaching experience designed to help you give yourself the permission slip you've been waiting for, to live more of the life you want and to do less of living for everyone else. And this launch is an example of that. So if you want support to do something that's a bit outside of the box, or something that you think other people would be like, oh, that's not possible, I am your girl. I can support you with anything. And I just very much believe in women getting as much support as they need to create the life of their dreams. So I'm here if you want to chat. And doors close in 48 hours, and I would really, really love to see you in there. Thank you, everyone. See you next week.